All right, so thank you for joining. This is the CycloneDX Cryptography Working Group, August 7th, 2025. Nicholas, this is the feedback what we've received, community feedback that we received so far for
Mhm.
this pull request, and it's seems to be mostly around like we had one spelling issue, for example, which
Okay.
is fine. Um, Standard name, I think he's just kind of, and these are things outside of the standard. This is all like cryptography definitions file.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and no, we're not going to make that an enum because it's like we're literally defining what it is right there. We have to give it a name of some kind.
Yep.
Um, what is this?
It's about the curve family, right?
Yeah, this is that category. Yeah, so
Okay.
that that higher level thing, right?
Hmm.
So NIST, yeah, etc.
But I don't get why this has to be an enum. I mean, it's part of the definition schema. So,
Right.
hey,
We're literally defining it there.
yeah.
Yeah, it just seems wrong if this was an enum. Um, my knowledge is not limited. It appears like we are capturing the form of the equation, but not the field type. This is maybe goes back to that um,
Hmm.
question for that we never actually got asked of Basel. Remember, there was that one field, maybe it
Yeah.
was called form. I can't remember. I didn't know whether or not to include it or not.
Yeah.
Um, so I don't know if it's useful. I mean, if it's not useful, we can literally just drop it. So let's get his.
Hmm. Yeah. It really depends on what what does he aim here, I guess. So I wouldn't include it from what we currently aiming for, um, but let's get Basil's opinion.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's beyond the scope of what we're trying to do. Um,
Mhm.
but I do like
Yeah.
it. I mean, we've got in the spec itself. This is in the
Hmm.
definitions file. In the spec itself, we actually have the. I can't remember what the field name. It's we often do capture the bits in there though.
Yes. Yeah.
Um, so we already have that. And again, I think it may be just a confusion on what this thing actually is. But that computational effort to break is interesting. it almost goes back to that, the classical NIST score and the quantum score, I think.
Mhm.
Did we remove those from the spec though?
But it's a good question. I think we deprecated them, but I'm not 100% sure actually.
Right. Yeah, I think we did deprecate them, and I don't know the reasoning for that.
Um,
Um,
um, it was so in practice. In practice, we had trouble to set that without the necessary context. Meaning from a scanner or T-bomb generation perspective and viewing it as a static snapshot, it was never well, it never made sense to set that. So it was basically a little bit confusing because people were asking why didn't you set the value, and we had to explain why we don't do it from a scanner or slash generation perspective, and that was mainly the reason. It was just more confusing in explaining things.
mm, mm. So even if we were to update the description um, of the field of those two fields in the schema, it really wouldn't help, right? Because they're not referring to the schema; they're referring to the output from the tool.
Um, yes. So I think so. My understanding of that is more it's related to, for example, how vulnerabilities are treated in SBOMs. So it's something different, not static. It's an analysis you do on top and you determine and you manage it, but it's not something.
It's something like consumption. So it's something that a consumption tool might be able to do.
Yeah,
Like if you're
exactly.
generating a C-bomb with static analysis or whatever, and then you consume it into something like dependency track that maybe had a little bit more context of what the application
Yes,
does, then you might be able to then calculate those scores. Is that a fair
exactly.
assessment?
Yeah, it's basically an interpretation of the raw data, and we mixed it with these two things. We mixed it a bit together with the
I see.
basically static data and the interpretation.
I see. I see. I see. Okay. All right. We capture the algorithm, but do not communicate the production status. Interesting.
Um,
I don't know how you
okay.
would deprecate a standard though, or you know, um,
Uh-huh.
I think a lot of that's going to be opinion,
Mm-hmm.
um, and who's doing the deprecation. For example, like NIST might actually have a
Right.
NIST algorithms that differ from BSI or
Yes.
whomever, right?
Yes. I agree. That's
Um,
more again a kind of an interpretation thingy or a managing thing than a static statement.
yeah, I agree. Um, in the same line of thought, it would be nice to communicate some known risks associated with an algorithm. So these are all really good ideas.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think, I mean, he's got it in the definitions file. I don't think the definitions file is the right place for these. I
Yes.
do think there's an opportunity to possibly include some of this stuff, especially like the attacks, etc., in 2.0, where we're working on adding support for weaknesses and threat models and those types of that
Mm-hmm.
type of data. Um, I like his thought around these things. Computation. I mean, this could be captured in a threat model.
Yes.
Um, these other things could be captured in a threat model.
Yep.
Um, with a lot more context than like just having a single field for them.
Yep.
Um,
Exactly.
placeholders. I wish we could. I wish we could. I really do.
Yeah.
Um, okay. Again, I will correct this. This is really the only thing that I see is kind of an issue.
Mhm.
Um, were you on the call last time we were talking about the Jose?
No, I missed the last call.
Okay. Last call we were talking about so in the spec, um in the spec, right, we added a number of new protocols
Hmm.
and I got to, I was doing the porting over to protobuf, which is what you're seeing here,
Hmm.
and to XML, and I ran across Jose, and I'm like, well, this is not a protocol, right? This is a suite of existing cryptographic algorithms and a way to kind of structure them in a JSON way, right? It's not like communication from like
Hmm.
one party to another type of protocol. It
Okay.
is a standard, right? And it's
Okay.
actually a family of standards.
Oh no.
Um, yeah, it's a family of standards that encompasses JSON web encryption, JSON web signature, and JSON web token, I think. So
Hmm.
those are the three that I believe are part of the Jose. And obviously the JSON web encryption and the JSON web signature have a lot to do with cryptography, which is,
Hmm.
I'm guessing, why he wants this in here. But they don't really define new forms of cryptography. It's using existing stuff,
Yeah.
right? HMACs and all the stuff that you would normally use.
Yeah.
Um, it is not a protocol though, in a traditional sense of, one thing communicating to another thing.
Hmm.
It is a protocol in the sense of, well, not even in the sense of it's an agreement between two parties that this is the algorithm choices we're going to have, and this is the structure of the
Hmm.
payload of what it could theoretically look like, which is a standard, not a protocol.
Yep.
um so I don't know what to do with this. This is the one thing that bugs me.
Hmm.
And Ian needs it for 5G.
Hmm.
Not exactly sure why. Um, the I don't actually believe it would actually tell you anything because again, it's a suite of
Yeah.
different types of algorithms, right? Um,
Yeah.
um, so I don't know what to do with this.
Yeah. It feels like it's yeah. Um. Good point. I don't know 100% either. And my first intention would be, okay, then remove it and let Ian figure out how he can structure it better so that he can define it here. Um, but I don't know. I mean, when I was also looking into how we structure algorithm, like how can you model basically the whole crypto universe for tooling and stuff. It was I run a lot across of the like there were no clear boundaries between algorithms and protocols, and so sometimes it was a little bit combined. And algorithms were defined by algorithms and stuff like that. So I don't know. It seems like how you explained it that it is something different and not a protocol. But that really depends also how we want to define protocols in the
Right.
standard, basically.
Right. 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 Exactly. So, um, I think there's three paths forward, and I don't know which way to go at this point. We can keep it as is, knowing that this is just wrong, and then give ourselves some time to figure it out in 2.0 with a breaking change.
Mm-hmm.
That's one option. Another option is to um, redefine what a protocol means to be much more broad in scope than what we would traditionally
Mm-hmm.
um, think of as a protocol. Or two or three, we would remove it, and worst case scenario, Ian needs to figure out another way to do it. Um, Using properties might be one method. Um, and if we do remove it, is there an opportunity to capture these
Hmm.
combined things in another property somewhere where maybe we're looking at, you know, um, I don't know, AES-256 or some HMAC or whatever, and we define the actual algorithms that are being used. But then we associated that
Mm-hmm.
with the context of, well, we're using it in the context of like this standard, right?
Yeah.
Um,
That's a good point. Yeah, I think yeah, I think that will be a bigger effort. But I like the idea. Basically bundle lower level things together to something that people maybe have a better relationship to or better understanding to. Like maybe they know Jose, but they don't know the algorithm inside, and we have a predefined basically package, so they know what is inside. The problem with that is we do have to keep track of that, which I don't know. So basically, the maintenance part of that, making sure that what is inside is actually inside and doesn't change over time. And then I'm always a little bit hesitating to do that because, yeah, that,
yeah,
I don't know what your point is on that.
yeah.
Because if it's outdated, then it's of no use, actually. But and keeping it maintained is quite some work, I guess.
I think the hard part is going to be to know. The hard part, I think, from a static analysis perspective, is going to be to know if you've got like an algorithm used for encryption or signing, to know that you're actually using it in the context of what Jose was designed to do versus, I don't know,
Hmm.
just doing, encryption at rest, for example,
Hmm.
which has
Yeah.
nothing to do with what the standard what was designed to do, right? It was designed so like from a static analysis perspective, if you can tie the use of an algorithm to the actual JSON web token, for example, that's used by browsers to communicate, that's fine, but that's a lot more work on the static and analyzers to kind of figure that out. And I don't think most of them are going to do that.
Hmm.
Um, in reality, I think the static analyzers are going to identify the algorithm, maybe whether or not it's configurable or used, And that's really about it, right? They're going to define the algorithm and maybe some properties about it, like the bit depth and everything else, and then just move
Yeah.
on.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I just googled Jose or Jose again. Okay. So how I just quickly from how I see it, it feels like similar to a JCA thing. So kind of a
Yeah.
library. Yeah. So then it's definitely not a protocol. And it's more like an implementation of those standards that are underneath, like JSON Web Token and you said JSON Web Signatures and encryption in
Yeah. Yeah, again,
JavaScript.
I think if I remember right, I can't remember if that was an if Jose was a if that was an ATF standard or what the standards body was. But yeah, I mean, there's tons of implementations of it across all different kinds of programming languages. Just because it's used a lot just for authentication and some authorization just by itself,
Yeah.
as a kind of a bearer token, but it's also used in authorization protocols such as OAuth, right, and OIDC. So,
Mm,
it's one of these technologies that kind of are under the cover of actual protocols, right? Something like OAuth,
yeah.
which actually does have, specific flows from one,
Hmm.
one asset to another. That's a protocol, right? And you can kind of map the communication between things. And
Yeah.
Jose is kind of one of those things that are just it's a standard that is used across the wire, but it's not defining the wire itself, right? It's not the
Yeah.
protocol. It's what's
Yeah.
transmitted over the protocol.
Yeah. It's
Um,
very confusing. Um, yeah, I mean, what I find weird is you said there's a ton of implementation in other languages, which I see too. When but the Jose thing stands for it seems like JavaScript object signing and encryption, which
yeah.
is weird. Um, because
Yeah, in fact,
JavaScript.
you can use let me just kind of show you, but we actually support in Cyclone.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the preferred way to do it, but we actually do support it as a use case. Use cases and examples, security. Um, maybe it's not under security. Maybe it's under extended. Mm, no, where's it at? Security, disclosure, pedigree, authenticity. Here we go. All right. So we actually support JSON signature format, which is our
Mm-hmm.
preferred method. We support XML signature.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Both of these are envelope signing things. Um, so you actually have like JSON structure that defines the signing, right? But then you
Mm-hmm.
have JWS, which is part of Jose, right? You have
Yes.
JWS, which basically does this. So if you had like this without this signature block, just ignore that. But if you had like
Yeah.
this and you signed it with JWS, it would look like this. And
Mm-hmm.
JWS is not specific to JSON at all. It actually can sign anything, binaries, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't
Mm-hmm.
really matter. But this is essentially what you would be transmitting in a token, for example, if you sign something.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Um, Again, not a protocol. Um,
Yeah. It's it it okay. But the weird thing is, so when I look at the IETF standard, it says it's like normally uses like method authentication code to sign things, but then using JSON-based data structures. So meaning it should focus on JSON, or I mean, what is otherwise? Why not just a normal signing algorithm? What's the
Yeah, I'm not sure where you're reading, but JSON Web Token is actually a JSON object. So,
right? Yeah, that I get. No, I was just referring to the definition in the IETF thing. And they just say in the first sentence basically an abstraction. JWS represents content secured with digital signatures or message authentication codes using JSON-based data structures. So that the algorithm is JSON-based, which is JSON Turing complete? No, that wouldn't work, right? I mean, then the output or the input has to be JSON structured, but that also not the case.
No, we actually use JSON Web Token in dependency track. So when you authenticate to dependency track,
yeah,
we use it there. And then of course we also have OAuth. I'm sorry, OIDC. Is it OIDC? I can't remember. Anyway, when you have like SSO enabled, it also kind of uses it under the covers. But yeah, just natively, if you just stand up dependency track, this is how we do authentication authorization.
Yeah. I mean, the token I get that I'm quite familiar with, but the other things not. So, but yeah.
Yeah, the the JSON web encryption basically lists out a set of predefined encryption algorithms that you can use if you want to be compliant with the spec. And many of those are actually weak. And yeah, so when from an implementation perspective, you have to violate the standard in order to use it securely. There's a competing standard called Paceto that most security people kind of gravitate to. That is basically, JSON Web Token and signature and everything. Basically Jose, but without all the weaknesses. There's been entire studies done on just how weak Jose actually is. But regardless, I think we need to figure out what to do with this.
Yeah. Okay. I looked a little bit in the. I think I got the main point now, but yeah, from what is so it seems like the difference between a normal algorithm and this is that just the output is basically JSON structure and not like binary or just raw data basically. Okay. Oh, that's interesting. And wild. Okay, so then it's definitely not something. Seems like not something like a new algorithm. It's just it's said it's using something, but also not a protocol. Seems like just a wrapper or something. But yeah. Yeah. I mean, what we could do, what I tend to do or feel like we could do is actually removing it, creating an issue, and get clarification on that, and then incorporate it in the next version. But I don't know if that how you would like to have the standard in terms of if there was an input from the community, if you are fine with removing it again and making an issue out of that, or if you're more tending to just keep it in and makes the users happy.
I'm actually surprised nobody have actually caught it yet. Honestly, but yeah, why don't I will remove it. I will create an issue. I will tag Ian, and that way he knows. I wish he was here today, but and then we can kind of work with him on I think the proper way to kind of represent this.
Mhm.
Because we have in related cryptographic related crypto assets or whatever it's called,
Yeah.
we have a type of token, right?
Yes.
That's one of the options, right? So that can quite literally describe a JWT, for example.
Yep.
And then we already can support the algorithms
Yes.
defined by Jose. So you put these two things together and you can describe exactly what Jose says without using the protocol. I think maybe that is maybe what we need to do. Just
Yeah.
kind of put the pieces together for him.
Yeah. But yeah, exactly. I think that that's the way to go right now. But if we, I mean, you mentioned JWT and the whole authentication suite, and I don't know how one does currently will, or what would be a good way to represent that. I mean, for sure you can dig deep into OAuth and stuff how that is done, but like people know maybe when they look at an application there is auth in there, but they don't know the details and
Right.
everyone, well, not everyone will model it in detail because they are just curious that there is some crypto and so
Mhm.
question is how to model basically the content of those authentication standards or yeah.
Yeah. And that's something we can talk about for 2.0.
Yes.
I've been wanting to support I've been wanting to support like being able to represent different types of authentication for quite a
Hmm.
while now. Authentication, authorization, all that.
Hmm.
Access control, ACLs, all of that. I've been wanting to do that for quite a while. And I think we have a need to do it here so that we can say these algorithms are used in this context, right? Which is something that we don't have today, right? We have the inventory and we have the parameters, but we don't necessarily say that, well, this is used for authorization or it's used for encryption at rest or something else, right? We
Yeah.
don't have the context here. And then we have, I think, a need in the threat modeling working group to specify, authentication, authorization, encryption at rest. We have the need to specify the context over there as well.
Yeah. Actually, this is something that came up in discussions we had here. One of our researchers was playing around with and kind of looked at different use cases or a specific use case, basically, again, the migration, and he was feeling that there is a gap in terms of, we didn't follow up on it, but he said like crypto usage, like is it used for authentication or for that's not there. And he was kind of thinking about if there would be something we could add. Um, so I remember now from the discussion at lunch a couple of weeks ago. But yeah, so that goes in the same direction.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
I will create a ticket for that for 2.0.
Hmm.
And and we can work on that in a way that's going to satisfy not just the cryptography stuff, but be applicable to everything.
Yeah.
Um, and I will remove this and create a new issue so that we can kind of figure out how we want to group these things together in the future to kind of represent these
Hmm.
things are kind of used in the context of this standard and then tie it to that other ticket for this purpose.
Nice. Yes.
Um, for the time being, I think for Ian, I think the best approach would likely be to capture the actual algorithms that are being used.
Yep.
Use the related crypto material for capture token. And then if you want to use a CycloneDX property to indicate that it's Jose, by all means.
Yes.
I think that's likely the best approach.
Yeah, I think so too.
Okay. All right. I will do that.
Yes.
Okay.
From my side, I hope I will get, so as I said, I work also on a different project at the moment, which is kind of urgent, but I hope that we get the MVP done soon. And when that is done, I hope I can, and I want to make sure that I can then have some time for the guide actually, because I wanted to look into the CBOM guide and
Yeah.
be with that. So yeah.
Yeah. The good thing, I mean, I think we have basically until the end of the year to kind of publish that. So it
Okay.
doesn't necessarily need to come right away. But although, I mean, it would be nice to get it out
Yeah.
by, October-ish.
Hmm.
Would be ideal. Um,
Yeah.
but I mean, it's not the end of the world if we don't. But yeah, if we can aim for October for the guide, that would be ideal. We're also working on me and Matt Rutowski. We're working on the M-bomb guide, and
Yes.
one of the things that Jan actually uh, identified it as an issue. Our in the standard, our definition of what formulation was for was actually really, really narrow. And that was not the intent. So we've redefined to make it more broader what formulation actually is designed for.
Hmm.
And that matches basically what we have content wise in the guide that's currently in development. And
Okay.
one of the things that's in the guide when we're talking about different types of use cases is actually for cryptographic certifications, right? That's one of the things that we actually call out as a way to actually use formulation in CycloneDX. So you could not only describe, for example, your cryptographic material and maybe your FIPS 140-2 or your common criteria, whatever you
Hmm.
have, but you can also then describe the actual formulation for how you actually assessed whether or not
Hmm.
it was compliant or not, right? So we call that out, and we call out a number of other kind of really popular use cases, AI training. I think we actually have like third-party audit in there in terms of formulation, right? Because that can
Hmm.
also be
Yes.
done. We call out a number of different things besides just how a piece of software was built. So I will run that by you once we actually get it to a fairly decent state, which should actually be this weekend.
Okay.
That's kind of
Nice.
what I'm hoping for. So maybe next week sometime, I'll send you the link, or I'll actually send you just a PDF of the draft version
Hmm.
of the M-bomb guide, so you can actually take a look.
That would be great. Yes.
Okay.
Nice.
Okay. I don't think I have anything else. Sounds like we got a little bit of work to do, especially on the guide
Yeah.
and some
Yeah.
clarifications. But
Yep. Um. Yes. So as I said, I hope I can, after maybe next couple of weeks, I can do a little bit more. I was and still be busy with the other thing, but yeah,
yeah,
if I come back and can do
okay.
some more here.
All right. Sounds good.
Nice, nice. All right.
Well, good. I think we can likely call the meeting today. So hope you feel better,
Yep.
Nicholas. And I will talk to you soon.
Yeah. Thanks, Steve.
All
Have a
right.
great day.
Cheers.
Bye bye.
Bye.